Ray's telling everybody that he's going to come invade your house, kill you two, take the kids.
When he says us, he was going to even kill the two older kids and take the youngest with him.
We're lying in bed. We hear a crash. You are going to take the kids down to the very end of the hall. You're going to guard them. I'm going to take my stand at the top of the landing of the stairs. That's where our defense will focus. Hello, this is Barry Arrington, the Chief Legal Counsel for the National Association for Gun Rights. And today we're going to be a little bit more informal. We're not necessarily going to be talking about law and cases. I've got a personal story. My wife and I have a personal story that we want to tell you. This is Lana Arrington, my wife.
Hello.
And we have some information for those of you who are kind of on the bubble. Why does the average person need firearms? Why is the Second Amendment important for self-defense of your family and of your children? And this is something that is going to be a little bit personal, and it's painful memories. But I think it's important that people know these sorts of stories. And so I'm going to start kind of in the middle of our story. We adopted our grandchildren, and at the time we adopted them, they were infant 3 and 5. And as this story progresses, about the time that we are going to be talking about, they were about 2.5, 5.5, 7.5. The important thing to know is that the parental rights of their biological parents had been terminated, and we were in the process of the adoption, background checks, and that sort of thing, preparing for the ultimate court hearing where we would adopt them. And you need to know a little bit about our former son-in-law. He was a former gangbanger, a Mexican-American gang. He had been in prison a lengthy stretch for armed robbery and aggravated assault. During this vicious robbery, he had actually hurt someone with a firearm. He was a violent man. And so fast forward, we have lots of drama, lots of heartache, lots of court cases. We have now the children in our custody. We get a call one day. It's someone who we deem to be credible. And they say that this person, Ray was his name, Ray's telling everybody that he's going to come invade your house, kill you two, take the kids.
I'd never heard of a home invasion. This is so out of my league. I didn't know what that meant.
And it was, I'd never been threatened. I had never had my life threatened like that before. But this violent person with a background in gun violence, we're told is preparing to kill us. And so what do we do?
When he says us, we had been, it was all the way narrowed down to he was going to even kill the two older kids and take the youngest with him.
So this was horrible. And so the first thing that we did was the first thing that anybody would do is we called the police. And it was very quickly, the police sent out an officer, and he came to our house, and we welcomed him in, and he sat down at our kitchen table with us, and we explained the situation.
And when we told him Ray's name, he pulled up his picture automatically on his laptop and said, "Is this who we're talking about?" And he was no stranger to the police department.
As I said, he'd been in prison a long stretch for aggravated assault and armed robbery. And that's one of the reasons. I mean, it was if it was just someone blowing smoke, it'd been one thing. But someone who's already been in prison for gun violence is a completely different matter. And that's why we took this very seriously. And we called the police. And he said, "Well, I'm sorry you're going through this." And I said, "Well, what are you going to do?" And he said, well, if something happens, give us a call. I was kind of taken aback. I don't know. In retrospect,
This isn't Ghostbusters.
that's right. In
Who are you
retrospect,
going to call?
that's right. In retrospect, I shouldn't have been taken aback. What he was talking about was just common sense. And I thought about it after he was very nice and he was very empathetic. He said if we wanted to, they would have a black and white drive up the street anytime we wanted. But
Right.
here is the advantage that the criminal has over the law enforcement officer. The criminal knows when and where he's going to attack. The law enforcement officer can't guard every place all the time. In retrospect, what did I think they were going to do? Park a black and white in front of our house from now on and protect us? Of course, they're not going to do that. They don't have the resources to protect everybody in that manner. We asked him, do you have any advice for us? He said, here's my advice. Take your self-defense into your own hands. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but you need to understand that you are the first line of defense and not us. If something's happening, give us a call. We'll get there as soon as we can. And that'll take several minutes, he said. And the implication, he was very clear in his implications. It was all going to be over by the time they got there.
Right. Yeah. And we had shared with him that up to this point, we had already boosted our home security. We had already changed our front door to a more secure door. We had done a couple things. And he said, well, that's all good.
He said, pretty much, you need a gun. And we started thinking about that, and we took several measures in response to that visit with the police. I went out and bought a home self-defense weapon. A shotgun is the weapon that I chose after having gotten some advice. And one of the things that we had as an advantage is we knew a lot of people in the firearms community. Dudley Brown, the president of the National Association for Gun Rights, came to our house and gave us some recommendations for weapon selection and weapon use. I had a friend who was a former Navy SEAL, and he took my shotgun and added some accessories to help in a defense situation and gave me a course on combat shotgun and how to approach the situation that we were in. And then Lana and I sat down and we developed a plan. Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're lying in bed. We hear a crash. You are going to take the kids down to the very end of the hall at the top of this, on the second floor, and you're going to guard them. I'm going to take my stand at the top of the landing of the stairs, and that's where our defense will focus. And she said, well, what about me? And I said, what about you? I understand that you're going to take a stand at the top of the stairs. What if he gets past you? What am I going to do? Spit at him? I'll never forget that. She's...
I'm going to say, stop it. Just stop that right now.
And
I can't even imagine. The thoughts that went through my head, I just was like, this is one very tough man, and I know that he would lay his life down for us. But the thought of that in reality, and then I would lay my life down, and then what's coming next?
Yeah. And so she indicated to me that she wanted to be able to protect the kids if he got past me. And that hadn't been part of my plan, to arm my wife to defend against a home invasion. I thought I was going to go it alone, but the more I thought about it, and the more it made sense. Yeah, I'm not invincible. Maybe he'll get past me, and then what? And so we got her a firearm. We talked about which one was best for her particular abilities, her size, her strength, and we decided on a .38 revolver for her. And
because the Make My Day gun was going to go through the neighbors, and I didn't want that. So.
Right.
Have to narrow things down.
We can laugh about it now.
Yeah.
And that's where we were. We had our plan, and we worked our plan, and we got firearms training for both of us. I had a course in combat shotgun. She went to the range and learned how to shoot that 38, and then one of the things that my SEAL friend told me is that when you're in a self-defense situation or any sort of situation where you're going to be in combat, it shouldn't be the first time you're in that situation. It should be the 100th time you're in that situation. I said, well, what do you mean by that? And he says, Barry, this is what I want you to do. When you're laying there at night, go through your head. Okay, you've heard a crash. What are you going to do next? And so that it's automatic. If you actually do hear a crash, this is what you're going to do. You don't have to think about it. There's no thinking. You just work the plan that you've already gone through 100 times in your head for a long time. I would lay in bed at night going over our self-defense plan and what would happen. And shotgun was not far away. The story ends when this violent man went on a crime spree, and his life ended in a confrontation with the police. He was in a situation where he could not get away, and he decided to end his life rather than surrender to the police and go through another prison stretch. And the police called us, told us about it, and that was the first time in a long time that I hadn't slept with a shotgun in reach. The point of all this, and these are not easy memories for us to dredge up, and we're not doing that gratuitously. The point of it is that people need to know. If you're in a situation like this, and you call the cops, this is what I'm going to tell you. We can't be there all the time. We can't provide 24/7 protection for you. And if your life is in danger, if your children's life is in danger, you are the first line of defense. And the other side will say, well, people just don't need firearms for self-defense. They're not good at firearms for self-defense. They should call the police. The police should be in charge of defending law-abiding citizens. Well, that's just stupid. They haven't really thought about the implications of what they're saying. And it's not just me who thinks that's stupid. The cops know this too, and they'll tell you. As a matter of fact, they have told us. In 2017, the Pew Research Center did a poll of 8,000 police officers in departments of at least 100 officers. These are big city departments. This is what they found. 74% of police officers believe it most important to protect the right of Americans to own guns, while 25% want greater efforts to control gun ownership. Among police, 3-1 want Americans to have access to guns for self-defense. And why? Well, we learned why in our own experience. They can't be there. They can't protect you 24/7. You are responsible for your own self-defense and the defense of your wife and the defense of your children. Yes, by all means, call the police if you know something is going to happen, but you don't know when it's going to happen. You can't be prepared 24/7 to call the police and expect them to be there to protect you from an armed invader. That's not my position as the chief legal counsel for the National Association for Gun Rights. That is the position of the police officer who came to talk to us about our situation. It is the position of the 8,000 or 75% of the 8,000 law enforcement officers who were polled by the Pew Research Center. This idea that the police can always be there to protect us from criminals is a pipe dream. The idea that law-abiding citizens should be disarmed is not just a pipe dream, it's dangerous. So people ask us, why are we passionate about the right to keep and bear arms? Because we stood sentinel for our children. And we're grateful that we live in a country that gives us the right to stand sentinel while we're armed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.